Welcome back to the All Turtles podcast, a show about the future of work, the future of health, and entrepreneurs building the future. I'm John Cifuentes, co-founder of All Turtles. Today, I'm speaking with Phil Libin, who is also co-founder and CEO of All Turtles, and is now CEO of Mmhmm. Mmhmm is our newest product, and because we've been so excited about building it, we wanted to talk about that process with all of you. Our podcast producer, Marie McCoy-Thompson, is joining our conversation as well, and together the three of us will go over where Mmhmm came from, why we made it, and where we see it going from here. I want to welcome Marie and Phil to our remote podcast booth, coming back from hiatus for a few weeks. We haven't been recording podcasts. Nice to talk to you guys.
Yeah, it's great to be back.
Howdy.
So we've been on hiatus for a few weeks because we've been heads down working on...
Because we're lazy.
Because, well, it is a quarantine. We have to make sure we're all getting our naps in. But
I've been working on my beard.
I was working on my beard, and then I became an uncle in back-to-back days.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Actually, a godfather in one of those. And it is customary for all uncles to have huge mustaches. So
that is true.
That's so sweet. I would love to see baby pictures. That's amazing. Congrats to your family.
All right, I'll share those as soon as they're appropriate too. They're infant pictures, so they're just kind of little meatballs. But
can we put them in the show notes?
Yeah, we'll put baby Oscar and baby Alden in the show notes. But anyway, we've been working on multiple projects. The one we want to talk about today is called Mmhmm. And Phil, you're leading this one, is that right?
I mean, leading is maybe overly generous, but yeah, if I'm involved in it.
So what is Mmhmm? What does it do?
It's a way to level up your performance on video. This is the first thing that we started working on that's kind of native to the pandemic, to the lockdown. We're all sitting at home, working over video, finding that kind of fatiguing and tedious and dreadful, and we just wanted to make that a little bit better. So kind of started out as a joke, as a way to just screw around with Zoom and virtual backgrounds, and grew from there pretty quickly.
And Mmhmm is definitely a video product. It is for video communications. But here on this audio podcast, we have the pleasure of describing it with only words. For those who are interested in seeing actually how it works, we have a bunch of really cool demo videos on our website. But Phil, could you just maybe talk about some of the features as best you can without being able to actually demonstrate them right now?
The 2-second pitch for this is that it's instant weekend update. We make it really easy to pretend that you are on the set of Saturday Night Live, or that you're John Oliver or something like that, and just talk and present and show slides over your shoulder, and then really take off from there. You can fly around, you can change colors, you can point to things. So it's a way to make presenting on video just more fun, more interactive. And then there's a bunch of other features that we're either have recently added or just adding that let two people co-present together. We call that co-pilot. That lets you make these interactive recordings, which are really meant to finally, once and for all, drive a stake through the heart of PowerPoint, so that we can just be rid of the scourge of people sending PowerPoint decks around, stuff like that. We've got ambitious plans.
What's the deal with the name? we have interesting names for multiple things across our projects and even our company name, but this one in particular stands out as it's not a word, is it?
Well, we had a really specific strategy for the name, which is to get people to stop asking us about what's up with the name All Turtles. And it worked. I think 100% success. No more questions about All Turtles as a name.
That's so great. But really, I know there's a good reason behind this name. What is it? It's got to be something cool.
I mean, there's lots, right? There's basically the short answer, right, is we just kind of wanted an unusual name, just like we did with All Turtles. And I think maybe we went overboard with the unusualness. But, we have like lots of jokey reasons. I made a video with I think 5 jokey reasons. That's actually a demo of one of our cool new features that we'll put up in the notes. There's lots more reasons. I think the main real reason is I really like the fact that every other name that I've ever encountered in my life, you can say without thinking about it. You can say it thoughtlessly. Like after a while, it's just a sound. It doesn't mean anything. And it's really, really easy to say without thinking. Everyone says it multiple times in a conversation when they're just, agreeing or listening. But when you try to say it intentionally, it's hard. Even I have to like pause for a little bit and consider, how I'm going to pronounce it and which syllable I'm going to inflect. And so saying the name is like a little micro performance. Like you can't really say the name, you have to perform it. And I think since that's what the product is for, the product's for performance, it's just kind of beautiful to have a name that you have to perform as well.
It's also made me have to be a lot more intentional with my active listening words, because instead of just in a conversation about I can't really sit there and go and I'm trying to think of many other ways to just go, oh yes, certainly, I agree. So that's an added benefit. Yeah, exactly.
we need. I've been auditioning those myself. I think I've settled on going back to the 80s and just saying word.
Yeah, it's concise and effective.
Yeah, it should be like,
that's a good one.
I concur.
Word.
So I want to ask Phil, I don't actually really know how the idea for this product really came to be. I mean, on the one hand, like maybe it's kind of obvious that we're all being relegated to video conferencing more than we ever have in the past few months. And so it's kind of like, how do we make that better? But in the early days of the pandemic, when everyone was scrambling to figure out, just how to go about life, where did you come up with this concept for creating this product in particular?
I was basically just screwing around with virtual backgrounds, with green screens, just to try to make like meetings and presenting a little bit better. In Zoom, I was mostly using Zoom, sometimes Google Hangouts. I tried to like get a green screen, but of course back then like you couldn't really get stuff delivered reliably. But I rummaged around and I found this green towel that I had, which wasn't big enough to like be a green screen because it was just towel sized. But I hung up the towel behind me on the wall, and it kind of made this like vertical banner. And then I just started playing around in Zoom with projecting things onto this towel, just for fun, and doing slides on it and that kind of stuff. It just seemed nicer than sharing a screen, than trying to figure out if people can see your slides. Like it was just kind of a neat effect of having like some changeable art or slides or photos. For a while, I had the photo of Anthony Fauci kind of looking, with his arms crossed, looking at me disapprovingly. And that was like kind of funny. It's just like whatever it took to make life and meetings a little bit less dreadful back in the first couple of months of the pandemic. And just a bunch of people started commenting on things. My friend James, he's the CEO of Salty, one of the companies that we were working with, saw it and gave me a bunch of feedback. Like, oh, I think it would look better if you like moved it this way, and you have to like frame things out a little bit differently. And then Alex from Sunflower had a whole bunch of suggestions about framing. And I just saw that people reacted well to this stupid green towel, which I don't know where it is. I'm sure it's still somewhere like lying around this room. So we got to like find it and like donate it to the Computer History Museum if this company actually succeeds as the original green towel. And then I pinged Steve White, who's one of our super engineers at All Turtles. And, he was busily working on like 3 other projects as most people are. But I'm like, hey, Steve, can we like hack around on this thing? And so I kind of stole some of Steve's time, and in the first few weeks of it, it was just me and Steve hacking around on stuff. And, we got something working that was an app that let me, change slides and backgrounds. And it was just a lot of fun. And then the more I used it internally and kind of in a jokey way, the more it seemed like this was something that could be a real product, and kind of grew from there. But yeah, it's literally been, I think we started the company on May 27th. So it's only been like 2.5 months or whatever. So it's super fast.
I keep hearing the word company, which is interesting. All Turtles built products, and that's something that we've focused on since the start. So is its own thing? Is it a separate company from All Turtles?
Yeah, this is a really good question. So I think this is sort of the All Turtles model in action. We work on multiple projects, and the only thing they have in common is these are all products that we think the world would be better off if these products succeeded in it. They're all, somehow good for the world, and they have great people working on them. And we don't care too much about like what's a product, what's a company, what's a product inside of some other company. Like the legal ownership, it's not what's important. What's important is how can we make worthwhile products with as little bullshit as possible. And so sometimes, we'll work on ideas that we just have ourselves, and those will spin out as as startups when they attract external investment. It's actually the second one of those we did. The first one was Spot that Jessica went on to run to be the CEO of. Sometimes we partner with existing startups like TELUS, and we just work actively with them, but it's always our own company. And sometimes we partner with big companies, big corporate partners, where we design and develop work together. But it's kind of meant to be for the it's owned by the corporate partner. We don't really care. We're not fetishizing startups in and of themselves. But like with Spot, needed to become its own company, a separate legal entity, so that it could raise money, because we realized that to do this really right would take more capital than we would be able to put in from All Turtles. So we kind of made it a separate company, raised the seed round. But just like with Spot and all the other projects, it's still, it's this hybrid model, right? Where a bunch of the people working on it are actually full-time All Turtles employees, and they work on, but they also work on other projects. But then there's also a bunch of people working on it that are only working on. So it really depends on the person and the role.
So something that anyone building anything has had to figure out, obviously, is how to do that during this global pandemic. How did we approach that? What's it been like leading the build of this new thing and seeing it have this kind of astronomical takeoff and have this success in terms of all these people being excited about it right away? What was it like to lead that when everything about the way that we used to work has had to change?
Yeah, I was talking with an investor yesterday, and he said something like, "Oh, it's been such a meteoric rise," and I'm like, "Dude, like meteors only fall. Meteors never rise. You're thinking of rockets. You don't want to be. Nothing about us is meteoric. Hopefully."
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like everything we've done is tough. Basically, when the pandemic started, we I think, as we probably said in a few episodes, we decided that what we were trying to optimize for at All Turtles is not laying anyone off, right? We kind of said, well, back then a lot of companies were going around getting advice from investors about, well, you should immediately furlough people and cut to the bone. And we kind of said, well, maybe that's the right answer, but we just don't want to do it. So we're going to do everything possible to make sure that we don't have to fire anyone. We don't have to furlough anyone during the pandemic, which meant, really just figuring out what we're going to work on, shuffling things around. We did a temporary pay cut for everyone. We did a 25% pay reduction for most people, and then just really focused on building things that would get us to be cash flow sustainable, which worked out. I mean, it was a lot of super tough work for everyone, but we're actually able to get to a point where a bunch of our projects started going well. And we got PPP support along with many companies, and we weren't kind of ashamed to talk about it, saying like, yeah, we are looking for the PPP assistance exactly for why it's intended, because we wanted to keep people employed. So far, knock on wood, we managed to make it through, and then things actually all started going pretty well simultaneously. And even before we got to a point where we were stable. When happened, it went fast, and we were able to raise more money, return people to a normal salary, and hopefully grow really fast. So we went from, literally 2 months ago, we were saying, man, our top priority is just to not fire anyone. I guess maybe 3 months ago. And now we've got something like 15 open job recs open. We're trying to hire as quickly as possible. So it was, a lot of luck and a lot of hard work.
What's been the response so far to the product?
That's kind of a multi-dimensional thing. The product's not out yet. We're still in like fairly early beta, closed beta. So it's too early to say that we have good product market fit, because, there's no real product yet. There's beta that, people have used. We can definitely say that the product timing, like the timing fit, is great. Like, right. It's kind of perfect. So the response to the idea and to the beta has been far stronger than we anticipated. The early usage is really good. It's really strong, but it's way too early to get excited about it.
Right.
I was looking at the stats yesterday, and I'm like, yeah, we barely have like 2 weeks of clean, stats. So it's right. It's hard to say anything other than like, it looks very promising and people are super excited. But I've got this whole state machine that I keep talking about, how I want to measure, how I'd like to measure product progress. And so we're applying all of that to, but the state machine runs on kind of a monthly basis. So you need a few months of data to really make sense of it. And we don't even have 1 month of data yet. So it'll take a while to really know how we're doing. But the next major milestone is GA, is to actually have the general availability, the full public release of the product, come out with a Windows version at the same time, or hopefully a little bit before. Right now, the beta is only on Mac. And, we're hoping to do that in the fall, kind of late September, early October. And then after that, we'll be a real product and hopefully be able to say how we're doing.
It objectively is too early to be really excited about it, and yet I have been really excited about it as someone who's been able to work a bit on this product. Just seeing the interest in the beta has been really cool. And for anyone who's listening who has been a part of the beta and helped give us feedback and let us know what things that you like and in things that you think that we could improve, we really appreciate all of that. It's helping the work a lot, and keep sending that stuff in, and we'll keep listening to you. But yeah, I've loved seeing all of that stuff come in and just see the buzz around it. It's been cool.
Yeah, it's been super good. And it is, and like beta testing is hard work. Like the people who are using it now are very much helping us build the product. That we had, in fact, we kind of got ourselves into trouble. We didn't want there to be buzz yet. So our plan originally was we're going to release it in invite-only kind of closed beta. And we had a very specific plan, still running this plan about how many people we want in the beta. But we considered keeping it secret. We considered keeping it secret because we didn't want buzz, because buzz isn't really good to have when you can't get in, right? Like if you have to sign up and wait. And again, we're not like the wait list that we have isn't there because we're trying to stoke some kind of sense of FOMO or because of hype. It's because we have specific plans for how many people we want at any given time. We didn't want people to like feel like they're waiting around for weeks or months because, that's ultimately frustrating. So we weren't actually trying to have a big buzz. We considered keeping it secret, but then we decided, it's a communication product, it's a visual performance product. And it kind of felt like a dick move, like getting people to say like, okay, we'll test it, but don't tell anyone about it because, then how can you really use it? So we thought, well, we're not going to ask the early beta testers to keep it confidential, which means that people will talk about it, which means that probably we should say something just so that we can like set the record straight about what this is. Like we should just get out in front of it. And so we decided to put up a really simple website, which is mmhmm.app. And then I made one demo video, which is like the night before we released. We just made a 5-minute demo video, and we talked to one reporter, Casey Newton at The Verge, thinking, okay, like we'll do one video, we'll have one story, and then like that'll be the thing that that'll come up in Google results and people search for it, and then we're going to keep it quiet until we're fully launched. In which case, then we'll try to go as big as possible. But that initial video and the interview just generated such huge excitement, so much more than we anticipated, that it actually like that's kind of a failure. Like we sort of tried to keep relatively quiet and failed at it spectacularly. And I say that's a failure, like only partially tongue in cheek, because like on the one hand, yes, of course it's great that so many people are excited, like that's really good. But on the other hand, like that does mean that we had to do things that we otherwise like wouldn't have done, because now we have more people that we have to not disappoint. I was expecting at the end of the first 30 days. So we did, right now we're in beta 2. Beta 1 was the first 30 days. Beta 2 is the next 30 days. I was expecting at the end of the first 30 days I was hoping to have about 5,000 people signed up. And we had more than 100,000 in the first 30 days. So it's managing those expectations was not what we were looking to do, but obviously, it's better than the alternative, right? Like hoping for 5,000 getting 100,000 is much better than hoping for 5,000 and getting 10, not 10,000, just 10 overall. So I'm glad that the failure was in the direction that it was, not in the opposite direction. But it did make life harder for us.
You mentioned hiring a little bit ago, and the fact that we are hiring for the Mmhmm team. For anyone who's working on an early stage product right now, how do you think about assembling who should be working on it? Like, what is the Avengers Infinity War, assemble all the talent process look like, coming from someone who's had to staff up sort of from 0 to 60 pretty quickly in the last couple months?
Yeah, and I've also had very deep discussions about are we Avengers or are we X-Men? And we're clearly Avengers because like the X-Men like to wear stupid uniforms.
Right. I'm so relieved that I used the correct analogy there.
Yeah, definitely. That's interesting. So this is one of the things that I think is really good at All Turtles, and I'm hoping that we really lean into it and make it a superpower at the All Turtles level. So all the hiring and recruiting is done by All Turtles for our projects. And it's because hiring and recruiting and like career development is so hard to do that almost no startup gets it right, because every individual startup is pushing to go as quickly as possible. And that means taking shortcuts. And, shortcuts, sometimes you need to do them, but shortcuts for hiring are like really dangerous and really damaging to the long term. Because like if you need to hire as quickly as possible and you don't have an infrastructure for this, then, the easiest thing to do is just to like call up your buddies, your college friends, people you work with, and hire them. And that's fast. And it might be okay, assuming you have a high quality, friends. But what it's not going to be is particularly deep or diverse. And it's very, very hard if you start that way to actually make a team that has a large diversity of experiences and ideas and identities. And if you're trying to make a product that's broad based, it's for the whole world. And certainly is meant to be for everyone. It's tough to do that if, at a core, you've basically just recruited people that you already know, that look like you, that you've worked with before. So at All Turtles, we try to have this as a repeatable process where, we pay for recruiters, we post job listings ahead of time. We almost never hire the first person, that we interview that we really like for a job listing, even though that's really tempting. We almost always try to keep a job listing open for, a month or two, just so that we can interview as many people as possible and then choose the best one. And all of this is easy to do on paper, but almost impossible to do for any particular startup. But I think we're getting much better at it at All Turtles, and All Turtles is doing that for and for for a bunch of our other projects. So yeah, it's hard. I would say, if you're a startup that doesn't have this kind of infrastructure, you really can't do a great job. I mean, being mindful of it is an important first step, but it really does help to do your hiring and recruiting in much more of a process way, rather than just calling your friends. Even though, that shortcut is actually very tempting. I get it. Even the medium term, you'll regret taking that shortcut. It won't get you to. It's unlikely to get you to where you actually want to get to.
So you ideated this product remotely. Worked on the first bit with Steve remotely, fundraised, hired up a team. And have any of these people ever seen each other in real life, or is this a fully remote team working on this?
Yeah, it's interesting. So everything has been remote, and probably probably will be forever, right? Because it feels like if we get good at this is a superpower to have, right? Because most things are going to be remote for a long time, so we may as well lean into it. The nice thing is, because it was All Turtles, the first 20 or so people that contributed to were all Turtles employees, and so we all knew each other and had worked together, and remember each other from the before times. And I think working remotely and on video is actually relatively easy when you're continuing a project that you already started with people that you already know. But the big unknown is well, how about, is it a good way to meet new people and work with new people that you've never met before and on something totally new, right? So in the beginning, all of our projects, we were remote, since the lockdown started, but it was all people that had worked with each other in the past, and it was all projects that were already continuing from the past. And then was the first totally new project, but all of the people were still the same people, so we all still knew each other, so it felt okay. And then I was really worried about crossing that second boundary, what happens when we actually have to hire people that we haven't worked with before at all, remotely, without ever meeting them. And we were doing that now. And, the good news is it's we're too busy to worry about it. So we just have to do it. So we're doing it. And it seems to be pretty good right now. But that was definitely giving me some anxiety. But, it feels like you just have to get good at it. So it doesn't matter if it's easy or not. You just have to do it. So we are. So yeah, the intention is, at least for it's going to be a distributed worldwide team, forever. And we're just going to get really good at cultivating and maintaining and recruiting and career development and all of that stuff for distributed teams. And I think that's going to be kind of a superpower going forward.
So looking ahead, looking to the future, which many things about how the world is going to be developing in the next few months are unknown. Although I guess that was always true. We could never really predict the future. But where do we see going in the next few months and even longer term? What are our hopes for this product?
I think this is something we have a pretty clear philosophy on. I think the main thing about the world, the main thing that's changed, and that will be a permanent change, the pandemic and the lockdown is hopefully a short-term change. Hopefully it won't last. But I think the permanent change is the world is going to be hybrid forever. It's going to be fundamentally hybrid. And what I mean by hybrid is if you imagine a spectrum of experiences, where on the one side it's all in person, and the other side is online. And so before, and during the before times, things were pretty much either in person or online. You rarely had a combination. Whereas now it's going to be a hybrid. Like most experiences, education, healthcare, like most experiences are going to be a hybrid blend of in person and online. And then across a different dimension, the dimension of live, like real time and live versus pre-recorded. Again, in the before times, most things were one or the other. But going forward, everything's going to be a hybrid mixture. So if you imagine these two axes basically form a 2x2, you have these four quadrants. In the before times, most experiences fit very neatly into one of the four quadrants, but only rarely crossed between them. But going forward, the membranes between those four regions have really become permeable, and experiences are going to be a combination, right? So, for example, education is going to be a combination of sometimes in person, sometimes online, sometimes live, like during a Q&A session, and sometimes pre-recorded, like listening to a lecture. And the same thing is going to be of true of healthcare, and the same thing of entertainment, of kind of everything else. And our philosophy is that if we think about things that way, we can make experiences for the new world that aren't almost as good as the experiences used to be before the pandemic, but are actually much better. We call this IRL plus, so like in real life plus, better than in real life, right? So rather than everyone sitting around and moping and saying, online learning isn't as good as in-person learning, but maybe, if we get better microphones, we can make it almost as good. We're saying, well, it's really, really difficult to make something almost as good. It's actually easier to make it ridiculously better. So don't try to recreate the old world using modern technology with modern limitations. Imagine what it could be like if you weren't trying to recreate it, you were trying to actually design it fresh with the new capabilities. And I think most of the world is going to get rewritten over the next couple of years around this hybrid concept of video, of interactivity, of both online and in person. And we see as being an important part of that worldwide rewrite. That's what we think our biggest contribution is. So it's this thing that literally started out as a joke of me monkeying around with a green towel. But I hope that it becomes a lot more ambitious and becomes an important part of the infrastructure of the world over the next few years.
Yeah, we are excited to be a part of that. And if you are listening and you have not yet checked out you can see us on our website, which is mmhm.app. That's mmhmm.app. Or you can always go to the All Turtles website as well and try out the beta. Let us know what you think. And thank you, Phil and John, for all the insights into how it's been going, and just getting to talk to you again is nice. It's been a while since we've been able to record.
Yeah, it's been too long, and thank you, and to both of our listeners out there, if either of you would like to be part of the team, yeah, definitely check out the job listings we have, either at the All Turtles site or at the site. I think they're the same listings because All Turtles is doing all of the hiring for all of them. But
you get to expense a green screen, which is really fun.
Yeah. So please check it out, do that, and take advantage of our generous green screen benefit.
This podcast is a production of the All Turtles Worldwide Media Empire. We recorded this episode at the venerable Union Street Studio in San Francisco, California. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes, send us an email to hello@all-turtles.com. Marie reads every message. Thanks to everyone who made this episode possible, including Jim Metzendorf for editing, Marie McCoy-Thompson for producing, Chris Plug for his audio expertise, Micah Rivera for our artwork, and Matt Ammerman for our theme music. On behalf of Jessica Collier, Phil Libin, and yours truly, John Cifuentes, and the rest of the All Turtles team, thanks for listening.